everybody. Hey, today we're going to be making seared duck with a pear and ginger reduction and some just sauteed squash to go with it. Okay, so this is kind of fun and we'll walk through it together. First, I want to introduce you to our ingredient. This is the duck breast. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get this started and then I'll talk a little bit about it. As you can see, duck breast, the meat is very, very lean. There's no real striation or of fat through there, but there's a big cap of fat right here, which is not necessarily what you want. It's kind of chewy to eat. So what we do, let's take it and we're going to gently score the skin and fat like this. Okay. And we are going to add just a little bit of thyme. I'm not even going to chop this up. We're just going to sprinkle some on top. Okay. And a little bit of salt. Okay. And we put it in a pan which is warm but not hot. It helps to add a little bit of oil to start it with. Okay. Breast side down. Okay. And what's going to happen here is as it cooks, the fat cap is going to sort of render down and become thinner and not quite as soft and a little bit more palatable. Okay. Let's just take up our gloves and switch cutting boards. All right. While that's cooking, I'll talk a little bit about it. So duck, as you know, is poultry. It has been domesticated for about 4,000 years, first in China, then in Egypt. It's very popular in Europe. It is less popular here in America. I'm not 100% sure why. But one of the questions that I always get, when we cook duck this way, we like it to be medium rare. Medium, maybe. When you cook it all the way to medium well, it's fine, but it's definitely a little bit tough. It's not quite as juicy. It's not the same thing if you were to cook a whole duck. You roast it, and that fat cap sort of just slowly melts into the meat. It keeps everything nice and juicy, but if you do it this way, you don't really have the benefit of that. So, why are you able to do this medium rare and not chicken? Well, the short answer is duck farming practices are not quite as intensive as chicken farming practices. If you've ever seen pictures of the giant chicken farms that they have, there's a lot of contamination with salmonella, things like that. Salmonella is found in the guts of animals, so the poop and things like that they get covered in, as well as how they live and how they are harvested, has a lot to do with the safety of the meat. Ducks are harvested on a smaller scale, but it wouldn't be fair to say ducks aren't dirty too, okay? So the short answer is it's safer because the farming practices and the handling and the butchering are safer. But in reality, just like any other meat, yes, you can get sick if it's undercooked. Just like eggs, just like if you have over easy eggs, they're not fully cooked. If you have a rare steak, it's not fully cooked, okay? So I feel like this is the best way to cook it, but it wouldn't be fair to say it's 100% safe, nothing is. If you like your duck fully cooked, just say so. We will cook it to any specification you want. The only caveat being that sometimes when it's fully cooked, it can be a little bit rubbery, okay? So this is what we're doing. The duck fat is starting to render a little bit, and I'm just gonna pull it up. Sometimes it sticks to the bottom here. And one of the best parts of this is when we're doing this in the kitchens, we're not just doing 2 duck breasts, we're doing 70 or 80 at a time. And what we do is we take this part, see that, how pretty that is? And we do this by itself. So before we start the menu, we take a certain amount of ducks, whatever we think we're gonna use that day, we sear them in advance. This part, because it can take a little while, okay? And then we cool them down, and then we reheat them to order, we sear them. But we don't want it to be cooked all the way through. The last thing you want is pre-cooked food. I don't want pre-cooked food. So I'm just gonna take you through the whole process here right now. One of the cool things about this, and I'll tell you another story, I love telling stories, is what you get here, you can already see that the fat is coming out and it looks nice and yummy. Duck fat is a gift from the gods. It's absolutely beautiful. It's really, really neat. So when I was a younger cook, I worked in a restaurant that would go through easily 100 duck breasts a day. And the prep cook would help me, and he would sear the ducks, and he would get them going, and he was very good about it, and he didn't go too fast. And at the end of the day, he would have a whole bunch of beautiful, beautiful duck fat, okay? And he also had to peel the potatoes. So what this guy would do is he would take the peelings from his potatoes, and he would wash them really, really well, and then he would fry them in that duck fat and feed them to all the cooks. It was the most wonderful thing I've ever had. I can't really bring myself to feed all of you potato skins, but maybe I will one day, okay? So we're gonna turn this down a little bit because I think it's cooking a little fast. We don't want it to burn, okay? So let's set that aside and we'll start working on our sauce, okay? Here I have one of my favorite new toys. This is our juicer, okay? We're gonna take some pears, okay? And let's see, some ginger and a few raspberries. And we're gonna make pear juice that we're gonna reduce into a sauce, okay? Down, okay? So, this is kind of fun, all right? It looks pretty big, but really, it's hard to do gallons and gallons at a time with this, so we're just still playing around and getting used to it. Maybe we'll get a bigger one soon, we'll find out, all right? So, we just turn it on. Okay? Got our pears. Don't have to peel them, don't have to seed them. Normally one of my cooks does this for me. Okay, and the juice comes out here. And all the skins and the seeds and everything else comes out here. Kind of cool. All right. Got a little bit going there. Let's give it a little bit of ginger. And a few raspberries. Because why not? Let's give it a few more. Good. That part's not so appetizing. Okay. Now we're only making a little bit, so we don't need a lot. I've got my little strainer here to any pieces that may have come through. Okay. And basically, just give a little tap there. Okay. Good. So let's take a look at our ducks. Ducks are doing well. So you can see it's kind of crisping up there. The little cap is getting a lot thinner. Let's give it a little bit longer on that side. All right. Now, let's start our reduction. Now normally, I would do this in a big pot, okay? But we're just doing a little bit and it reduces faster in a wider surface. So we're gonna take a saute pan here, add our juice, okay? And just let that cook down. And I'm gonna just keep an eye on that while we do the next phase. All right, butternut squash. Duck and butternut squash are natural. Okay. And we're going to use a mandolin on this today. So this is what's called a French mandolin. Okay, and it's got some little blades inside of it right there. You can use either one. Use this end to make like chips or waffle fries or things like this. This end is for julienning, either large or small. Okay. Classically, you would use a knife to julienne. You would cut the vegetable into very thin matchstick like stripes, but that takes a long time. This is how we usually do it. Flip this over. Turn over our duck. So, slide it right down here, taking very good care not to get your fingers in the middle. And so what you end up here is julienne vegetables. Okay? Now, when I was a young man, and I'm not, my first experience with the mandolin, a chef taught me how to use it, and he called it the Widowmaker. Why would you call it that? Okay? Well, because it's very, very easy to slide your fingers here and take the tips of your fingers off. Okay? And I found out almost immediately how easy that was. And I was a little bit scared of it, I'll tell you what. And so I asked the chef, well, isn't there some sort of guard or safety device that I can use? And he said, oh yeah, you can use it. But if you do that, the rest of the cooks will never let you live it down. They'll probably call you a girl's name, and you'll never hear the end of it. So I didn't do that. So we use it in our kitchen. We don't do anything mean like that to our cooks. But it's a very useful piece of equipment, okay? You can see our reduction. What we're doing, obviously reduction is just trying to remove some of the water and keep some of the flavor. Okay, so what I'm doing is watching the level of it, and we're also watching the bubbles. You can see the bubbles coming to the surface here. The pears have a certain amount of sugar in it, so the sugar is going to remain while the water goes away. So the surface tension of the bubble is going to get bigger and bigger as the water cooks out. Okay, so if you ever want to know how done something is or how reduced it is, watch the bubbles. Okay? Okay. Now we've got our butternut squash. We've got some parsley here. Okay. All right. Duck is cooking nicely. Difficult to cook on this surface here. I'm trying really hard not to overcook it, but we don't want it to be particularly rare either. So, now let's watch our reduction. I'm going to go ahead and taste it. It should taste like exactly what it is, which is pear and raspberry and ginger. That's really good. Okay. I'm going to give it a touch of salt. Not much. The thing about salt is it's very easy to add, but once you've added it, it doesn't come back out. So be careful with the salt. You can always add more. All right. A little bit more. All right, our duck, once again, looking pretty good. is with this. Everything's looking good. Okay, so as you can see, the bubbles are getting a little bit larger. Now, when it's nice and big like this, you can take it as far as you would like. I'm stirring it so nothing sticks to the bottom and the edges over here. Obviously, the more you reduce it, the more intense the flavor is going to be. And it's already getting thicker. I don't know if you can notice that. Okay, we're almost ready. I'm going to reduce the heat a little bit. And I'm going to finish with a little bit of butter. And we take some butter and we add in 2 pieces. You don't have to add the butter. You could just do a straight reduction. The butter I think makes it a lot prettier. It sort of makes it shiny. It also thickens it a little bit. The trouble with butter in this sauce is it's very fragile and it'll break in about 5 minutes. So you don't add the butter until the very end. Now when we do butter sauces in the kitchen, it's a little bit different process, but it's kind of the same idea. What you're doing here is you're making an emulsion. You're taking liquid and a fat and you're mixing them together. We all know how well oil and water mix. So this is an emulsion, but there's nothing to hold it. It's not going to keep for very long. Okay. Let's just put this aside so that I can use the burner. Okay. And if it breaks, we can fix it. All right, don't worry too much about it breaking. Keep an eye on our ducks. Starting to look very good. Okay. I'm actually going to take this duck out and I'm going to let it rest. While this one just kind of keeps cooking. Okay. So, following up from my story, I'm going to add just a little bit of this duck fat. We don't normally do this in the kitchen, but we're all friends here. Okay. Because what we've got here is very flavorful fat. It's already seasoned. It's got the duck flavor. It's got a little bit of that thyme in there. Okay. Let's get it nice and hot. Plus it's already hot. And add some of our squash. Okay. And because the squash is cut like this into very thin strips, it's going to cook rather quickly. Okay. Normally butternut squash takes, when you cook it, it takes a little bit longer. It's like a carrot, something like that. But that's the key. If you want it to cook evenly and quickly, cut it into small pieces with a lot of surface area. And you can cook it in about a minute this way. Okay. Okay. Let's see how our duck is doing. Not bad. Okay. And when it gets about halfway there, see it's starting to brown a little bit on the edges. And become very limp. We're going to finish with some of our parsley. And we're ready to go. Okay. Okay. So let's start with our sauce. Still hasn't broken quite. One of the challenges with a sauce like this is you can make it perfectly, and when you put it on a nice hot plate, it can break almost immediately. This plate happens to be lukewarm, which makes it easy on me, but it won't stay hot for quite as long. Let's get our vegetable. I'm going to just do a little pile in the center. we have our duck breast. Normally I would let it rest a little bit longer than this, but let's go ahead and try it. I like to slice it as thinly as possible. Okay. Let's see. As you can see, there's still plenty of juice in this. There is still a little bit of a fat cap. And there we have it. This is our seared pecan duck breast. It's surrounded by a reduction of pear and raspberry and ginger, and with sauteed butternut squash in its own fat. I hope you enjoy this. Have a good day.